Welcome back to a brand new episode of Pop Kannon. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I am Robert.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Joe.
And guys, today we are bringing it back to our S1E1 series, where we go take the very first episode of a television show. Some of us have watched it, some of us have never seen it, and we're going to get some raw reactions to the very first episode of Supernatural.
Spooky.
So, I've seen it. I've been a big fan of this show since the beginning. Who else here has seen it before?
I have.
Me. Sorry, audio.
So that leaves Robert to have never seen the show.
I watched one dismembered episode of this several years ago with Jordan and Joe, but otherwise never watched it, was never interested in it. I don't even know when I started hearing about it. Maybe it was when I started working at the bookstore. I don't know.
Probably.
Well, maybe a few years before that because I watched it with you guys, but then I never really thought about it again. So yeah, I was just like, let's do the first episode of the first season in 2005 and see what happens.
Robert, what did you think? First impression?
So I'm not going to lie, it was much better than I anticipated.
That surprises me.
I know it does. Because I was surprised as well. I was actually interested in what was happening. And when the episode ended, I was like, I could absolutely see us continuing forward with this. I don't know for how long.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see us continuing forward. But the weird thing about having to watch this episode now is having watched 2 full seasons of The Boys, which is also done by Eric Kripke, right? His name is?
Yes.
And there are some strong parallels to the types of characters that he likes to write. And I don't want to talk too much about The Boys rather than talking about the episode of Supernatural, but Dean is very much on par with a Billy Butcher character, and Sam is very much on par with Huey as a character and the types of like the archetype that they're going for there, which I was very surprised about how Dean was portrayed and was portraying himself here. Did not expect that to be the person that he was in this first episode at all.
Interesting.
How do you mean?
That is interesting.
I just didn't expect how, I don't know, not necessarily sarcastic, but he was kind of an asshole like a lot of the time. And I was not anticipating that at all.
Okay.
And I don't know why. It was just like the impression of the show that I got was that he was not like that for whatever reason. That's just like the impression, knowing the show from other people watching it and just the ancillary knowledge that I have. Didn't expect him to be a dickhead.
So going back to this, I haven't been following Supernatural. A lot of people I know fell off like years ago. I was really into it when it started, and I watched this when it aired. But I was very scared as a preteen, and I think like episode 5 is Bloody Mary, and when I saw the end of show preview and they said Bloody Mary, I like made the decision that I was done with Supernatural because I like to sleep in 8th grade. But that, that's a little bit of too much information about me. But so yeah, going back to the pilot, I really was surprised with how nailed down these characters were, because that's so unusual for a pilot or a first season in general, which I know like the tone of the show does kind of shift after season 1, but the characters I think have been really consistent for the past like 15 years, which is ridiculous unto itself. So that's why it's surprising for me I guess it's weird to hear you going in cold turkey and you didn't expect that from Dean.
Yeah.
But that's just because like we all know Dean. We know that's,
and he doesn't watch it.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, just knowing like how strong the fandom is, I didn't expect him to just be acting that way in episode 1, maybe. Like, I don't know. I just accepted. I thought maybe it would probably have been soft. If that was the way they were going to go, maybe it was going to be a little softer. But they just drop you right into how he acts towards everything, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've actually watched any of Supernatural. I don't even remember when I started. It was either high school or college. Like, I know I watched a shit ton of it, like, my freshman year. But I kind of dropped off after a certain point because I just kind of got tired of it. I think it kind of, like, the storylines took a shift, and I actually, like, think some of the characters took a shift, and I just lost interest. I got a little bored with it. Revisiting the pilot episode, I forgot how much I really liked not just, like, this first episode, but the first season in general. I think the first couple seasons are my favorite overall. I like how you kind of jump right into the middle of it, and I think that the way they set it up was really well done because you're getting explanations of things, but it's not like somebody sitting down and, like, this is what happened. There's no narrator, but it's like you're learning as they go and you're picking up these things. And, actually I was rewatching the first episode and I just kind of kept going. Like, I think I got, like, watch, like, the next 3 episodes, and I'm probably just going to kind of continue doing it and then give up after a while and just be like, yep, this is all that exists.
Right.
But no, I'm really enjoying revisiting it. And I think that, like, the characters do kind of undergo a little bit of a shift. Like, Dean is, like, an asshole, but, like, he softens up, like, a lot. Like, as the story progresses and seasons
I think maybe
progress.
my assumption of that was just that he's, from what I understand, such a fan favorite.
Yeah.
That it was like, oh,
I mean,
they like him. He's not.
Speaking, like, for myself, as the only woman here, like, I definitely always, like, prefer Dean because he's the bad boy, so he has that going for him too. He's got, like, the leather jacket, he's got the car, he is a bad boy, like, he just, doesn't give a shit, but he does, and he's really soft inside.
And
that's like half sarcasm, but
but no, you mentioned something that I wanted to bring up because you said that they don't sit you down and there's no narrator, and that's true. They use the dialogue to give you some background information, except for the one point where Sam literally gives you the onus of the show.
Yeah.
Like, the log line essentially for the show in that one scene where he's like, so what are we supposed to do? And just the actual idea for the entire program. And Dean's like, well, yeah, I mean, like, if we're going to try to all have jobs, I guess we're going to fucking do this, right? That was honestly, because normally corny shit sticks out to me, like, really bad, especially for what used to be a WB show and is now a CW show.
Yeah.
I never have any faith in anything that they put out because it's always just so fucking corny to me. And that was really the only thing in this episode that rang that for me.
Yeah.
When he gave that ham-fisted fucking "this is what the show is" line. Otherwise, I didn't think any of it was lame or corny or stupid, and I'm sure maybe it kind of gets into that as it goes on because they try to keep it going.
Yeah.
The CG was the CG. It didn't look good, but what happened was cool if you were to explain it to somebody.
Yeah.
But the visual that they were able to put forward was not, like, great. But it was also 2005. So.
And I was gonna say too, because even, like, sometimes, like, one of the things I was thinking about, like, watching this, and I'm just like, all the credit card fraud and, like, the identity theft. I'm like, can you even fucking do that in 2020? Like, can you? Like, go into hotels, like, under these fake. It's just like, how do you do that? Like,
Yeah.
Well, he specifically went to a motel.
Okay,
So
well,
it's not like he went to a Holiday Inn Express where they would check things.
that's true.
That's
But-
true.
Like, and that's one of the things I'm just like, God, can you really do that? Like 2020. I mean, I haven't watched any of the current seasons, so I don't know what they've been doing for the past 10 years, honestly. Well, no, 5 years, I guess. But I don't know if that's changed at all.
Yeah.
And that seemed like one of the most fucked up things that came out of this episode for me. Was I was like, wow, they're just fucking criminals, actually.
The whole time.
Holy shit.
Did you not know that?
No, I didn't know. I literally didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So to hear him be like, oh yeah, we fucking falsify a credit card. I was like, that's casual. Holy shit.
They really are able to do some really interesting story structures using that specifically that they venture into down the road. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this show, but I only saw up to like season 9.
I only spent 9 years of my life.
That's fucking dedication to watch something for 9 straight years, dude. Jesus, give yourself some credit.
Jordan, that's
you saw a lot of the
life.
show.
So like, I keep buying the Blu-rays. One of the reasons being that I know it's currently streaming on Netflix, which I'm assuming is where all 3 of you watched it.
Yep.
The music in the original first season is completely different.
Yeah, because that's why I shook my hand. I started the first half of the episode watching a bootleg, and they pull into the gas station, and
AC/DC is playing.
no, it's something else. It's Allman Brothers, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I took a break and I went to eat lunch, and I put it on Netflix downstairs, and the music was different. I was like, what the fuck? But I know that's like just like a curse of syndication.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why I had to do both, but
Now, Jordan had said that to me. That he said like there was a Metallica song playing or something when they drive away.
Yeah.
And they changed it to some generic rock song.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about it. So we're watching the episode and that happens and we go to the next scene and I went, that was probably where that was. Like it registered in my brain because we always have the subtitles on because of the baby.
Yeah.
And it was like the lyrics of the song were just really weird. And I was like, that's an interesting... Oh, it wasn't a decision. Never mind. I didn't choose that. Got it.
And it's funny, too, because I just rewatched the pilot episode with the commentary, and they were talking about how important the music was, that they wrote it into the scripts to get around the fact that they needed to use those songs.
Yeah.
But throughout the entire, first couple of seasons, they've used licensed tracks, like classic rock songs, and I know that was, a huge hook for a lot of people watching it live, because it stood out, especially on the WB.
I took great offense to Sam calling Motorhead, Metallica, I don't remember what the other bands that they name dropped were, mullet rock. He could eat a fat dick for that one. That was fucked up. Mullet rock.
Oh, man.
So
that's not what they listen to at law school. Pre-law school.
So, really quick, what did you guys think of Sam and Dean as characters just based in this first episode alone?
I mean, obviously you get where they're going with it, and then having the additional parallel to The Boys, another Eric Kripke production, you kind of understand what the dynamic is going to be going from there. And I liked it. I thought it was cool. You know, they were able to seem to be casual and familiar with one another, even just kind of picking up where they would have left off when he ran away to law school, as so many lawyers have to do.
The tragic lawyer story.
Classic lawyer story.
But I'm just saying, did you believe their chemistry?
Yeah,
do you
absolutely.
think they were written well?
Yeah, for a first episode where you're kind of getting a jumping off point of how they're both coming into this, one of them already doing this on his own, and the other one, Agent Coulsoned into it the needing to get the avenge his girlfriend, which as a moment totally unexpected for me.
Really?
At the end, did not see them pinning that back. So that was like, we both were like, oh shit, just like his mom. Like, that was cool. Didn't expect it. So we were both like, that was neat. That was neat.
It's kind of a waste of Adrian Padalecki, but
yeah.
She was great in the small amount of screen time that she got. I truly believed that like her and Sam had a relationship.
Yeah.
I think it was a really good depiction of two brothers who they have shared trauma, and they both obviously are dealing with it in totally different ways. So I like, because Sam's obviously trying to move on from that and do something better, whereas Dean is just kind of fallen into like, there's nothing else for me. For one thing, I'm glad that Dean kind of becomes less sleazy, it seems, as time goes on, because that's definitely like, I think, a shortcoming for the character. And I don't really like how forced into the series Sam is by the end. Like, I really wish it was more of a choice, and like, part of it is a CW show, so it's like we have to like put a button on it and say this is the show and this is what it's going to be week after week. Right. But like in a more like, you know, being spoiled by like HBO shows where it's actually just a movie spread out over 13 episodes, I would have liked a few episodes of Sam kind of trying to live both lives and then coming to a decision that, no, I can't go forward on this path. Like, I don't get to live that normal life. Right. I don't like the story making the choice for him.
Right. Because that's what
and
they
I don't
did,
like it doing it by killing a woman.
maybe that's why I didn't expect it to be like that.
That's fair.
Was because I was expecting him to, like, not literally, but basically stand in the middle of the road, and the building he had to go into was over here, and his brother sitting in the car revving the engine over here, and he had to, you know.
Yeah, maybe not that on the nose.
Yeah, but like, so the fact that they tie it back to his mom, I thought was like interesting, but then it brings up a whole bunch of other questions as to like, is this the same thing that did it to his mom doing it to him? So are they being targeted?
Right.
Or is that something we're going to have to figure out? Like,
all this and more on the next installment of Supernatural.
Yeah.
I really liked the fact that they killed off Jess in the first episode. And I feel like they leave the door open. The fact that there's 15 seasons worth of material, there is episodes there where we either get a flashback,
right,
or we get something where we see Jess again.
Yeah, I mean, the title of the show doesn't necessarily close the door on being able to see people who have once died.
Or people who died staying dead.
It leaves the room for that narrative to be explored further in the future.
Because they deal with things of the occult, things that are
not natural. But...
Right. Just make you uncomfortable generally.
Something a little more than natural.
Extra natural. Yeah.
Big natural.
Uber natural.
Let's talk about the opening scene with them as kids.
When the mom dies.
Oh, the baby
yes.
in the crib.
Yes.
So that was really good. Anytime to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan is good. Okay. We like seeing Jeffrey Dean Morgan do things. I liked it. I thought it was a really good hook.
Do you think they did a good job, like, being spooky and setting a tone immediately?
For sure. They're like, for me now, anytime you put a baby involved in something and you try to attach dread to that, it's really hitting home every time I see something that involves that.
And that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, what if you like randomly woke up, you see like a figure, like, oh, the man is with the baby, and then you go into the other room and it's like she's sleeping. Like,
she's not.
What, like that? I think even if you didn't have a kid, I mean, obviously there's that fear, but I can only imagine that's exemplified
and, like,
having children.
That for me, I was like, it's weird that she didn't approach him, because I kept thinking I definitely, regardless, would have also walked in there and been like, is he okay? Yeah. So it's weird that she just was able to be like, oh, he's got it in an overcoat. Not going to ask questions about that at all.
She's probably, to be fair, she's probably like still half asleep.
Yeah, but for me, regardless, I'm just walking in there like, he's all right. Like, there's zero chance that I'm just like, oh, you got it. Like, sure. Gonna go investigate the living room. That was weird that she was just like totally cool with that. But yeah, like, so I mean, obviously they don't answer it in this first episode, but is that Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing the person standing over the crib, and that's what you're supposed to believe?
No.
Or that's clearly another person that you learn later on? Okay. Because I couldn't really tell from there, and I was like, maybe they just had him play the spooky figure, and that even like added to the mystery of it, possibly. But you know, if you're saying it's another guy, like, that's totally fine too. I'm assuming, knowing the very limited amount that I do about the show, that it's that Castile guy.
No.
No? Okay.
I don't even know for sure, but I know no.
Okay.
Because I just know that that's another
character.
No.
I just know that that's another character, so the assumption on my behalf would be like, soft introduce him in that first episode. We'll call back to that later on, and you'll see why he was really there. Like Harry Potter's
there's only
fucking
3
uncle
characters.
or whatever.
So here's a fun fact, and this might be getting into spoiler territory a little bit, but Castiel doesn't come into the show until season 4.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
interesting.
We got to get through all the
He's
other
the cousin
mythology
Oliver of
before.
Supernatural.
No, that's cool. I just seeing merchandise,
yeah,
and knowing of characters. You know, like, the assumption on my part was that they dropped him in there, and then we'll come back to it eventually as to why he was there. I was actually giving you a thing to protect you from the fire on the ceiling. You know, some shit like that.
No,
no, but it is really clever what they wind up doing with that.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite, like, season 1 is one of my favorite seasons of this show.
Okay.
Joe, Sarah, you guys have comments about that opening sequence as kids?
I thought it was, it played very much like a mini horror film. Like Robert said, that kind of the play of the figure and then going to the living room and seeing that it's not who we or she expected. It played really well. It's obviously a hook to get you to keep watching. So, like, I can't really be frustrated that I don't know, you know, why is her stomach cut? Like, that's obviously part of some ritual. Why is she stuck to the ceiling? Why was he watching the baby, waiting to do something to her? But that's all, you know, because it's a CW show.
Yeah.
Keep watching.
Yeah. And like
that's the White Walkers that you don't get to see for another 3 episodes. So.
Right.
It poses like a lot of questions, like Jordan said, but it also, like, I mean, it kind of sets the whole, like, it sets the tone and like the premise for the whole season too, because it's like before you're introduced to like the adult versions, you get the little kid version, like the little kids going through this horrific, traumatic, scary, terrifying, creepy supernatural event. And
she name dropped the show.
But so it's like you kind of go into the show like with, you kind of get introduced to these characters already knowing, well, they have a horrible, like, traumatic backstory. Yeah. But then, you know, and with the whole mystery and the questions surrounding, you know, the 2 women on the ceiling by the end of the season, it gives I think the season like a direction to go to. It's like, well, you know, at some point we're gonna get to maybe knowing why, and it, you know, it's like the little, like every episode has a little mini arc. But then I like when shows also, like when, because I like this with the X-Files too, and where it's like this whole season has an overarching arc, story arc, but then every little mini episode exists in itself, where you can pretty much watch random season without watching the previous seasons. So I like that it gives it direction. Trajectory is the word I was looking for.
I was gonna say, the last S1E1 that we did was Dexter, and Dexter did almost the exact same thing, where the overarching story for the season is the ice truck killer, if I'm remembering that correctly. Yeah. And then within the episode, you have the murder that you have to figure out what happened and kind of go from there. So they kind of both did the same thing, which is interesting because one is a Showtime show that's allowed to do anything that they want, and the other one is constricted to what WB will allow. So they both kind of went with the same general concept. But I mean, that's a lot of shows.
Yeah.
That
especially
use
for
that.
the time too.
Yeah.
That was pretty much all network television.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, you're pumping out that formula because it's got to be like a procedural, but we also have to solve this big thing.
Right. And that's like definitely, I think, when you revisit, because like a lot of the shows that I watch are older shows, like that I'm revisiting. Like there, I think, is a distinction if you're gonna go watch, you know, a CW show from 2005 versus watching anything on HBO from like 2020.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge, and I mean, obviously different networks, but there's just, like Supernatural follows a formula, you know, where it's like this happens and then this happens and then at the end of the episode they're gonna figure out what happened and then they're gonna
they
be
pull
like
the mask off of the monster and they find out who it is.
Like Scooby.
Yeah. Or it's even funny because I just started rewatching Buffy, and that kind of like that set the tone for all of these WB shows to be like, there's a big bad every season, and then it's Monster of the Week from there. But you always get like a scene telling you something going on with the big bad.
Well, and so many of the shows are like that, like Buffy, Charmed. I used to watch that when I was younger. Like, and it's so formulaic where it's like, there's this overarching season monster, but then every little episode we gotta fight the smaller. You gotta wait till you get to the boss battle.
You gotta get to the boss fight. Absolutely.
And something with Supernatural that I think is very interesting is the first 11 episodes are basically all self-contained, and the giant big season arc doesn't really kick off until episode 12 with more deep mythology.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wanted to make sure they were getting a full season before they really committed.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened because after I think the 4th or 5th episode aired, they ordered them to series.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
They got a full season order, which is really cool because I know Eric Kripke was workshopping this show for 10 years prior.
Yeah. Before you can get it
And, like,
picked up. And
I liked, and like the Monster of the Week this week, for their first episode, I thought was cool. It's a story that like every town has.
Yeah.
And they kind of even lean into that too, where they're like, oh, it's a lady in white or whatever the hell they called her.
The woman in white.
Where it's just like run of the mill. We've got like a list of these fucking things. Where is this one now? Like I like that a lot. And then the story that they built into it, I thought was good. It was entertaining. Like I was engaged in it for sure. Like I wasn't sitting there like scrolling on my phone like, oh yeah, she killed that guy too. Like I wasn't doing that at all. I was actually like watching it and interested for it.
Yeah, and I think that's why like I like the episodes so much too, because like I'm always one for mythology, and it's like even though the myth of like, you know, the white woman or whatever it follows like a very traditional storyline. What?
The myth of the white woman.
The Karen.
Some say you could even, if you go to aisle 11, you could still hear her demanding for the manager.
I'm gonna get that on t-shirt.
You're right, Sarah. They with that particular like urban legend, I guess they merged two, like they've got like the Phantom Traveler, and they actually said that they merged it with La Llorona.
La Llorona.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because like, you know, I used to like podcast about like myths and folklore and fairy tales, and you know, we did an episode on La Llorona, and it in like cultures all over the world have very similar stories. I mean, it's just one of those things where it exists like different language barriers, different countries, and it's just, but the way they did it, I mean, it's obviously a more modern telling of it, you know, and it's kind of, I don't know, I thought it was well done. It was simple, like it wasn't like, I'm not saying it was groundbreaking storytelling or anything like that. It was fairly simple, but it was effective for what they were trying to accomplish in a pilot episode.
For sure. And the thing that I was like, because they made it a point to say that she does it to men who are not
Unfaithful.
Unfaithful, that was the word. I kept thinking infidelity for some reason, which is the same but different. And she gets into the car with Sam, and I was like, but he hasn't been unfaithful, so is she gonna kill him anyway? And then she's gonna like force him to be unfaithful, which I thought was really fucking weird.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if the idea of the curse was to punish people for it, why then force them to punish them? Like, I kind of got lost in the weeds trying to figure out the logistics on that.
Yeah, and
I was
that's
literally sitting there like, but if she forces him, then it's not actually his fault, so she's punishing. Like, I really got fucking...
Yeah.
That part for me was like one of the things that didn't work very well.
Yeah.
It didn't play well. Sam sitting there in the car screaming, I'm not unfaithful.
I'm a good boy.
Like that.
I'm a lawyer, Junior.
But maybe even that was like to play to the religious mythology of it, where he's announcing that he's not unfaithful, so he believes in something more or some shit like that, like.
Or just that he's like, or it's also, I mean, imagine if roles were reversed and Dean was the one in the car, like he'd been
he would have been
fucked.
dead.
Like,
He just would have been dead.
And you know, just like it could have just been as simple as like another tool to highlight how different they are. You know what I mean? Like,
he'd have been like, you know what I call banging hitchhikers? Roadkill. Anyway.
Was that her or him?
Him. That's what Dean would have said had it been him in the car.
Oh God.
What did we think of the search for Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character? The search for Dad.
where's Waldo?
I'm assuming that's just going to be unending.
Hey, I mean, we need a plot here.
It just feels unending.
Just keep missing him.
I
Tune
mean,
in, you'll see that guy again.
if they find him, then they're gonna have to come up with another idea for what to happen next.
Yeah,
So-
how to get him to disappear again. Fuck. He got trapped in the Phantom Zone. Oh.
I really hope you continue watching. At least the first season.
But like no, so I
first
liked it
two.
in this episode because it directly brought us to places. But I mean, obviously I don't understand why he wasn't where they went, but that's to be determined at a later date. So I
TBD.
understand. But I was just like, but he fucking, like, why would he have just he was so close and he just took off, and I was like, that's so weird. But they got to keep the story going. I get it. It's just
wait till episode 2.
it's just like maybe at the last
3.
episode, like they should have just been like, oh, there he is, and then they go
He's
from
running
there.
away.
So
He sees him and goes, "Did you save that woman?" And they go, "Oh, you mean send her to hell?" What?
What?
So originally, apparently, their dad was going to be on the ceiling instead of Jess at the end in the original, like, first draft that Kripke did.
Oh.
But
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think that would have been as like effective though for like propelling Sam, because Sam wouldn't. He'd been like, "Oh, all right, I'm an orphan."
That's
solves
exactly
that.
why they changed it.
Let's go, Jez. Let's go be
There
lawyers.
goes my only ties to this bullshit.
And then that's how you lose 14 seasons.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show like how changing like one little detail like that
yeah.
could change the show completely.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think it also points to like good writing as well, because like if they would have kept that original idea and then Sam would have been like, "Oh wow, fuck that demon. I'm going to avenge the father that I hate." And then they still done it, like you wouldn't have believed it, and I don't think they would have gotten a full like next season.
And they would have then had to account for Jess as part of their group, and I don't think he necessarily wanted to write for a group of 3.
No,
Because if he wanted to write for a group of 3, Dad wouldn't fucking be missing all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So that's interesting, and I didn't know that was like an original thought. I'm really
cool,
glad
though.
that they did it, because I don't think we would have been here right now if they did.
That's why we never submit our first draft, kids.
Listen to your editor.
Or just let somebody read it that you know is going to be brutal to you, so you can understand the real issues with it, rather than giving it to a bunch of people that are just going to nod their heads at it.
Yeah.
So speaking of writing, Joe, do you want to lead us off? What did you think of the dialogue and the banter between Sam and Dean? Do you think it was strong? Do you think...
I think it was strong when it didn't have to move things. Like when it was just like brotherly, and like they don't really, they get along, but they don't, because they're not there yet at this point in the series. It didn't so much work for me when they first leave the apartment and they're Sam is basically like expositing like, we were little boys and we made silver bullets and all the things we did, and Dad gave me a gun, and it was just like, I get it.
I was 9.
Yeah, like I would have liked like a little more like mystique around like I know there's gonna be supernatural shit. I get the idea. You don't have to tell me right off the bat everything that you did.
Right.
But then besides those
Silver
parts-
bullets, those are for werewolves. Like that's what the idea was there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, them as brothers, I bought. Although if not for that opening scene, you wouldn't be able to convince me that Dean was the older brother.
Dude, okay. No, I'm really glad that you said that, because I was honestly
Yeah.
debating on whether or not to submit this into the podcast, because even with all of the ancillary outside knowledge of the show that I had, I still have a problem saying that Sam is Dean and Dean is Sam.
Yeah.
They just look a certain way to me.
Really?
And then
It doesn't
in that
help if you watch
opening-
Gilmore Girls either.
Yeah, that's true. Because then
Sam's
Sam
name
is
was
Dean, and
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Dean is Sam.
So, but then in that opening sequence when they're younger,
Yeah.
Dean,
Yes.
as a child, is wearing Sam as an adult's haircut.
Yeah.
How dare his hairstyle change?
Oh, I love
But, like, even, like, that's such a small fucking detail, but some other shows will go to that length to
Yeah.
cut him into, that kid into a similar, at least, so when you see 26-year-old Dean, you go, that's Dean. Not, wait, Sam was in the thing, but now he's got the long hair. Like, for me, that was... I was already confused as to which one was which, and I kept trying to keep it straight while I was watching the episode.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and I was like, well, son of a bitch, they're really not fucking helping me here. I'm so glad I don't have the added information from that Gilmore Girls show, because I really would have been pissed off about this.
But I think also having that knowledge that Dean was old enough to witness and remember that and see it, like, and have that trauma, that speaks a lot more to the way he is too. That he like, even though he and Sam have had these shared experiences, and Sam obviously like knows what's out there,
Right.
Dean has seen the worst and Sam has not, until the end of this episode, and Sam is forced to face what
Right.
Dean has already seen before.
Right. And then, like, not to like, skip too far ahead, but like as you continually like learn more of like what Dean had to do, it's like he had to like help raise Sam. He had to help,
Right.
like he was like a protector. Like he had to grow up so quick, like much. He had to grow up quicker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
More quickly.
More quicklier. And like he kind of has like Jensen Ackles, like I mean both of them like they age like clearly, but it's like so funny kind of seeing how much like Jensen Ackles has like a baby face.
Dude, they look
And it's
like
like-
babies.
It's like you guys are so freaking cute, and then it's like then in later seasons it's like okay.
So my wife Amanda actually did mention that she thought he was very good looking, but she said he
Yes.
looked like somebody, and I can't for the life of me remember who she said she thinks he looked like.
Which one?
But she was dead
Which
on.
one?
Dean.
Jensen
Dean.
Ackles? Dean?
Yeah. She said he looked like somebody. But yeah, she did mention like immediately how good looking he was, and I was like, all right, so we're definitely gonna probably continue watching this.
Why not?
But no, and then I mean, kind of the onus of what our program here is trying to do is to whether or not you would continue watching it. And Sarah, you said that you're going forward.
Yeah,
with
I'm
watching
already
it.
like. Actually, I think I watched episode 4, so I
Bloody
should be
Mary's
coming up
next.
on Bloody Mary.
Oh shit. Joke. So the thing is that it's probably a show that we're gonna watch.
At least up into a
because-
point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Just keep going until we decide. I don't really like where this went. Because I told her that I know that.
But then
Kripke
skip ahead
drops
and
out, I
watch
think,
Scooby Natural because that was great.
Season 5, Kripke drops out, right?
So
Oh, really?
so Kripke originally had the show planned out for 5 seasons.
Okay,
So season 5 ended
and he left.
and he exited as
And they're like, "Let's just
showrunner
keep
and
going."
everything.
And so they were like, we need a musical episode. We'll get somebody else to do this.
So kind of what happened for me in my experience with the show, watching it live week by week since 2005, after Kripke left, the quality dramatically tanked.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's like there's a shift in like the tone and
Yeah,
like
because
a clear shift in the
you
writing.
can tell the way that the show should have ended. Like, you
Right.
could watch the end of season 5 and just never finish it from there and be like,
And be
okay,
good.
that's kind of what he was going for.
That's the world I
Right.
kind of like to live in.
But season 6 and 7 were, the showrunner was Sarah Gamble, who was a producer on the show.
Okay.
And it just didn't feel right. They were trying to like make up new rules to the show that didn't necessarily add up all the way. And when she exited after season 8, or going into season 8, excuse me, they really had to try to clean up the mess that she
mess.
had left. And I think they
funny.
did, but it still never got to the point where I continued and wanted to stick
So you
with
were kind
it.
of lost with those two.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
at the end of that,
they
second
really
one, you were
kind of
like, "All right, I'm
burned
done."
me out on it. But
Okay.
I will say,
But you
watching
still watched it weekly, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because this is one of those network shows. So how many episodes a season is that? Like 23?
20 something.
it's like 22 a season, 22, 23. I was looking, there's like 326 episodes total for this show over 15
But
seasons.
like, imagine, just imagine like getting 44 shots at something and still not being able to put it together. You know what I mean?
But yeah, so I'm very curious to see how they're gonna tie things up.
With the finale of the series.
But from watching season 1 and the first episode again, it makes me want to go and continue, because it made me think about all of the incredible episodes, because I really do believe they put out some really good like hours of television.
Yeah. I agree.
over the course of at least the first 5 seasons. And there's even good episodes in season 6, despite the overall narrative. One of the biggest things across the fandom is the car, is the 67 Chevy Impala. And it just doesn't hit right if you're watching it on Netflix with that generic rock music. You gotta be listening to like Blue Oyster Cult or AC/DC.
It does make it more funny though. Like it adds to a level of humor where it's just like this weird like as they drive away all badass in the fucking car. Like,
you ever heard of this band? No. Yep.
Me either.
Human music.
I like it.
Did you guys think the humor was good?
Yeah, I honestly did laugh a few times at shit that Dean said. Sometimes because it was really fucked up and people shouldn't speak like that to one another. But otherwise, like, there was definitely like enough humor in it to be like, okay, you can enjoy this on multiple levels. You don't have to go into this like, oh my god, this case is going to be so fucking wild. You could, but there's going to be other things there for you if that's not happening.
What did we think of the woman in white and the fact that she was taken to hell by her children?
I mean, if you kill your kids, I mean, you get what's coming to you.
Yeah.
I mean,
In a moment of temporary insanity.
thing too, and so like, I don't know, like I know there's been some like issues, and I don't, maybe not issues, but like in the years of Supernatural, like the lack of like strong female characters throughout some of the seasons. So it's like on one hand, it's like, all right, like the first episode, like you get the woman in white type of thing, but I mean, I am sympathetic to her character. I mean, I thought it was kind of satisfying in like a weird, maybe uncomfortable way that her kids were the ones who like dragged her to hell, and they were the ones who were preventing her from going home. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I can't imagine, like, 1, the loss of your kids, 2, the loss of your kids by your own hand, just because your husband cheated on you. Like, ladies, men aren't worth it.
Right, right. Take the kids, move away, and take his ass for child support. That's what the system is there for.
So...
Even though it was like, what was it, 1908 or some bullshit when it like like wasn't it supposed to be some really
80s.
old
No, the guy
thing
was
that they
alive.
tied into?
It was like the 80s.
They were talking
Oh,
to the
okay.
husband.
They must have mentioned something else that was like super old then. Never mind.
Wow, that husband, he aged well,
Yeah,
actually.
he did. But
Must have been
speaking
all
of the
the
fucking
cheating.
husband, the weirdest part of this entire episode was that guy's answering Sam's question.
Yeah.
In the most strange way, like no people speak that way. He was like, did you guys have a good marriage? And there was this weird like sure,
Well, yeah.
I'm gonna go now.
That whole scene and like the plot, it's leading me to believe like, oh, this guy killed his wife. Like it's not, and like I love that. Like I love when it's like, this is what it's always been, but there's a twist on this. But they didn't do that, and that like that did just feel like a wasted scene to be like, yeah, she's buried behind the old house, which like you could have accomplished without doing the 5-minute thing of the guy like sideways admitting that he cheated on his wife.
Yeah. And then like he was now like Sam, I guess, is the first person since his kids died to tell him that she was the one that killed them, and he was like, "Get the hell off my property."
Yeah,
Right?
but he also implied that Sam's dad was there before, which like I wonder what their conversation was.
Apparently, it was the exact same conversation because he said, "How many times I got to answer these?"
Fact checking, sir.
Yeah, and that was a really quick answer, which I thought was cleverly written. To say, oh, I'm just fact checking what he put down on the. So that was, I liked that. Like, there's little parts of it that were like, okay, nice, but at the same time, just the idea that we had to go here, very fucking weird.
Yeah.
because he's not admitting to a crime. He's just like having his face pushed in the mud further about
yeah, and like the whole, because he looks guilty, he sounds guilty, but at the end of the day, all he did was like cheat on his wife, which is like a shitty thing to do, but it's like, and I mean, I'm sure he has guilt, because if he hadn't have cheated on his wife, then his wife would have gone loco and like killed the kids in the bathtub or whatever. But like,
but do we even know to what extent the cheating was?
No.
Like,
maybe he
looked.
Like, I mean, it's like what, 1800, so he probably looked at another woman's ankles.
It was the 80s.
I can't.
This was the first man to cheat, so her reaction was right.
Hey.
I said he commented on someone's MySpace photo.
It was so long ago.
That was probably Dean's reaction. That's why I didn't send him.
Oh shit. That broke me for a second.
All right. So, any final thoughts on Supernatural? Just the pilot episode in general.
I love it kind of sums itself up that like it was very funny to me when Dean shoots the ghost and like you the viewer say, why the hell would he shoot a ghost, and then Sam goes, why would you shoot a ghost?
Saved you, didn't I?
Yeah, so like me as like the fan in my head was like, oh, Dean's stupid, and this is like showing that, but like it was good to see that in world, like you're an idiot. Yeah, but that and I do think that the pilot really set up the series in a really great way. It's a very successful pilot, in my opinion. Very
Definitely.
consistent, I think, with at least season 1 of the series. There doesn't seem to be a huge quality drop besides the effects, but as we said, it was 2005. They could have written the women better or added more women. But they had a lot to get done in 40 minutes, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that considering the fact that it's from 2005, and despite my like questions about how easy it is to like pretend you're a government official,
Well, I mean, when you have a glove box full of
no, but like I think it held up pretty well. I mean, obviously, like the quality, of whatever, like the graphics and stuff isn't like the best, but again, like in the old cell phones, I mean, you wouldn't really necessarily know that it's that old.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes you watch things that are so dated and you're like, oh, come on. Like, whereas this, even though it obviously is a little bit dated, the technology is different. I mean, regardless, I mean, he still has a freaking, like, cassette tape in the Impala. So he could be
and they
in
make
any
sure to bring
time.
that up in 2005 right off the bat. They're like, why are you dealing with obsolete technology? This won't age the show any worse.
It's all, time is an illusion.
The one thing that did, I think, date the show for me was when they were running away from the car that was chasing them on the bridge, and you realize that what Dean is actually wearing, because he had like a shirt and like a leather jacket kind of deal on top of it, but just like bright blue whitewash jeans and some sort of Skechers sneakers, and you go, definitely 2005 for sure. He's not wearing dark wash, they're not slim fit, he's clearly out of the loop.
A simpler time.
It was.
I wear the color they put on the wall. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to the acting and the original vision for the show that it's still on the air 15 years after it like premiered. Like that's to do that and to pump out the sheer amount of episodes. It's impressive to me.
Yeah.
For sure. And to try to keep that story going. I can't even fucking imagine the undertaking it must have been to just be like handed a show, especially one you didn't create.
Yeah.
Like, just to be handed a show and say, okay, this has gone on for 5 or 6 or 7 seasons and it's done really fucking huge numbers for the network.
Your turn.
Yeah.
Make it interesting.
And you're like, yeah, I think there's 3 or 4 mythological creatures we haven't touched already. So we could get into those, I think.
Squonk. Squonk.
So just from a sheer like work standpoint, it's super impressive. But I also think the filmmaking just alone in this pilot episode was really, really well done. I think even if you take away all of the different special effects and stuff for the like the time period, I think it's still a very solid piece of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know
I
what
would
the
agree with that.
actors are gonna do when it's all over, because I mean, who could they play? Like, honestly, like have either of them been in anything since Supernatural started?
Jensen Ackles is about to be in The Boys.
yeah, Jensen
Oh, is
Ackles
he?
is going to be
Yeah.
in season 3 of The Boys.
Oh, that's cool.
He's going to be their like Captain America spoof.
Oh,
That's going to be good.
Yeah.
Just based off of this
I'd
one
watch.
interaction I've had with
Yeah.
that guy, that's going to be awesome. I can't
like-
wait for that.
I mean, I have to finish season 2 still, but I mean, I'll sign up to watch season 3 if he's gonna be in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
And,
like, Jared Padalecki could probably retire on his Supernatural money right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely,
both of
'cause
them
I'm
could.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
sure it's
after 15
running.
years.
I'm sure it's running somewhere. I'm sure there's a channel somewhere that bought the rights to it that's just running those episodes from 1 o'clock in the morning till 6 a.m.
Well, I know
probably
never have to
TNT
worry about it.
owns
Yeah.
Yeah.
like syndication rights to it, so TNT
Oh.
is just playing Supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch it like sometimes like on TV. It would be
Mm.
like reruns and stuff play back when I had cable.
But, I mean, as my introduction to this show, I thought it was a very effective pilot, like we've said. We do plan or intend to continue watching it. We almost watched the second episode, but I was like, no, I can't have any more knowledge than the one episode. I don't want to be like, well, then in episode 2 they kind of did. Like, I didn't want to start trying to separate the two from one another. I wanted to only have that one piece, because it's been so long since I watched that Ghost Facers episode with you guys.
Oh yeah,
That I don't remember what happens necessarily, other than like there's a basement.
it's a spin-off. and that's the thing, like with that episode and like this show in general, like they'll have like one offshoot episodes that like
Right.
you're
Don't
kind
fit.
of following B characters.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like at least, whereas the Netflix model and like the streaming model today is to like, oh, do 10 or 13 episodes, like, and take as much time as you want, at least.
If this were a Netflix show, what would have happened was, in the very beginning of the episode, we would have seen the mother on the ceiling in flames, and the boys, not knowing who they are, the one would have been like, "Mommy," and they would have cut, and then we would have had 6 or 7 episodes of everything that happens, and then in episode 8 we would have got that day in their life, starting from the end of where we see her burning on the ceiling, then we flash back to breakfast, and then we go through their fucking day, because Netflix has to have a fucking flashback episode in every season, no matter fucking what.
Yeah. But that leads to my point of saying, like, okay, you have 22 episodes
Yeah, take
here,
your fucking time.
so
Filler
take your
content.
time, fill it with whatever you need to do, and
Yeah.
if you want to do like those special one-off episodes, you can.
Go for it, because it's not going to affect anything if the
Right.
show's going well.
Yeah. So
And sometimes they're fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're enjoyable.
Yeah.
Some of them.
I think it's so funny
More than
hearing
others.
Jordan say, like, 22 episodes is really like, you got room to open up the creative pipes instead of the studio saying, I need 22 hours. You need to do it. You need to put
Fucking
this
make it.
actress in your week.
Joe, you know as well as I do that Jordan is, at heart, a huge optimist. So he's going to take that with a glass half full.
I've
and
seen
go,
his
wow,
Instagram.
I have so much
That is
room to
not
play. Whereas if you handed me 22 episodes, I'd be like, there's never going to be fucking enough time for me to fill all this. I've got 1.5.
I'm like, we'll make it work, guys.
Yeah. Jordan's more willing to figure it out.
So this has been S1E1 on Supernatural. So let us know if you enjoyed Supernatural. Let us know if you are currently watching it still. If you fell off, if you've never seen it. It's on Netflix, so go ahead and watch it. I'd suggest buying the DVDs or renting them somewhere or finding a stream of it.
Go to Blockbuster.
Go to
Yeah,
Blockbuster.
folks, rent the DVDs, said Jordan.
Break into the ruins of a Blockbuster.
At your local, go visit your local Hollywood Video and
Find an
walk up to the
Movie
teller
gallery.
and
Movie
if you will.
gallery.
movie gallery. Yes. But yeah, let us know what you thought. If you would like, you could follow us on social media at PopCannon. I'm Jordan. You could follow me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, at JL24FPS.
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Yesball.
I am on Instagram and sometimes Twitter at Sarah Ann Dippity.
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Joe4Broke.
So thank you very much for watching or listening. Make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. And stick around.
Or both.
Or all of the above. Why not?
Ring that bell.
Make sure you stick around for more Pop Cannon, because we got way more content coming to you very, very soon.
Stick around for after the credits.
Pop Cannon will return.
Paul kicks in the door behind Robert.
Is that our post-credits scene?
Yeah. I give him a briefcase with the Tesseract in it, and that's it. It just goes to black. It lights up his face, and he goes, and